Hey, it's Kim at Carolina Sewing Back. Thank you so much for joining in with us today. We're going to have a special little project. It's my sew along project. It was a special anniversary gift to our customers for celebrating our 32 years of in business this year. And so I'm hoping that this will aid you and you will be able to put this project together a little bit easier than if I wrote a pattern for you. It's a great little thing for your pins. Of course, you can see you've got a spot for your clips as well as something to catch your threads in. Now I can see all kinds of possibilities for embroidery on this. This is a great place to showcase some embroidery. Even right on the front is a great place for a monogram or a cute little saying for us stitchers. But this is our project today, so if you were not able to stop by the store as we celebrated our 32-year anniversary, then let me tell you all you're going to need today. And so I have one piece. My little connector piece measures 8 by 4.5. And then you'll have one piece for your pincushion itself, and the measurements on this are 7 inches by 8 inches. And then you're going to need 2 pieces for your bag, one for your outer bag and then one for your lining. And so those pieces measure 9 by 16, and you will need 2 of those. So one piece for your pincushion, one piece for your connector, and then 2 for your bag. So again, the connector piece was 8 by 4.5, and the pincushion itself is 7 by 8. And then the bag is 9 by 16. So let me show you some other little things that help aid me in doing this. I like to take cardboard strips and I measure those off on my ruler. This one is a 1/2 inch, just plain old cardboard, and I've got them labeled 1/2 inch so you can see. This is for pressing, and I'll show you what I use that for a little bit later. I've also laid out my 1/4 inch one. Here you can see, again, is just plain old cardboard. And also from cardboard, I like to cut my miter corner triangles, I'm sorry. And so this one is actually, it measures 1 3/4 inches from tip to flat bottom. This is great for our mitered corners, and we'll be using that today as well. Now the other things that you'll need are some crushed walnut to put into your pincushion, and also something like boning to give your bag a little bit of body. Now if you don't have boning, I've used all kinds of different things. I use the strapping off boxes. We're all getting packages in our homes these days, and so you can save this. This I love too. That's what's in this one. This is weed eater string from my weed eater. And so, or of course you can go to the store and get boning, and you're going to need about 18 inches of boning. But that's about all you're going to need, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew the little connector arm that's on the stitching bag. And the way you do that is you're going to take this and fold it right sides together, and we're just going to run a seam from here to here. And I'm using about 1/4 inch seam allowance today, and I will back tack just at the beginning because I might tug on that just a little bit. Forgive me, I've got to turn my iron on. I just realized I didn't have it on. So once you've got this stitched, go ahead and turn this right side out for me. And I don't know if you can hear that. It's my kitty meowing in the background there. And we're going to just press this down once my iron heats up. And this piece will be ready to go in. Now you'll notice that I left both ends open, okay? And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our pincushion piece ready. And so when you get this ready, what I want you to do is I want you to press about 1/4 inch down on one side. And so you'll just take your iron and we'll press this down. Now this is when, I don't expect this to be very warm, this is when I like to use my strips. See here? See, when I do this, then I can roll that fabric up really nicely and get my iron right across there. I do have one already pressed though here. So you can see I just insert that in there and give it a nice press. Now I'm going to take this and I want to put this right sides together. And I'm going to put a little pin in the tip here. Now before we stitch this, we have to tuck in our connector piece that we just sewed. So we're going to just tuck this in. I want that to be in the middle, and you can, you know me, I'm going to kind of eyeball it. But if you're a measurer, then you can measure it. That's fine. I'll get this in place and then I'll show you exactly where we're going to pin that. There's my iron heating up. So we're just going to pinch this in here, see there? And just make sure that everything's out of the way of your seam. And again, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I do want you to back tack. I'm using dark thread today in hopes that you can see very well where we're stitching. Now when I get to my corner here, I'm going to pivot and turn and go down this other raw edge. So drop your needle and I'm going to take one more stitch. And then when we get to this folded edge, girls, go ahead and touch your reverse and let's back tack right there. Once that's done, you go ahead and remove your pins, and I want you to turn this right side out. I think I have one more pin in here. I'm hoping I will not get stuck. There we go. I'm going to turn this right side out, and this portion's actually done. We will fill this a little bit later with walnut, crushed walnut, or you can put sand in there. You have to do something a little bit weighted on this project though, so no polyfill, it just won't be enough weight in there. So this is what you've got so far, okay? And so the next part, let's go ahead and start on our bags. And so to do that, I like to take both my lining and my outer bag, and I put that 1/2 inch cheater piece on there so that I can press this in place with my iron, see, and just press across here so that you get that nice folded edge on both. And I'll tell you why a little bit later. It just makes it a lot easier if you do that now instead of later. And I have 2 already pressed. That's a good thing since my iron's just heating up. And so right now all we're going to make is just our 2 bags. So I want you to take and place right sides together and go ahead and stitch all the way down and all the way across again. We will back tack. About a 1/4 inch seam allowance is fine. This is our actual bag body piece, so this was the 9 by 16 inch piece. And zip right across that bottom. Back tack right there for me, and lay this one to the side, and let's go ahead and do our second bag piece. Now you've got to decide which one of these you want to be your lining and which one you want to be your outer bag. I'm using cottons on this today, and this is a great way to use up some of your scraps, but I think that upholstery fabric would be really snazzy on this too. I've got a friend and she has these laid out around her husband's recliner for his pistachio nutshells to just drop in. So some people use them just as little trash bags around the house so that you can gather up all those things you don't want people just dropping everywhere. So I've got both of these done now, and so the next thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to miter these corners. This is something so easy to do. We're just going to take both of these ends and we're going to just kind of let our bag drop in here like this, and we're going to measure, okay, and mark down. I'm just going to use my little cheater piece here. I think to make these behave a little bit better, I might go ahead and press them just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark this. I'm just going to use a regular ink pen today. And I'm doing, like I said, mine is 1 3/4 inches down from the tip. And you're just going to place that tip on there. It just makes this a little bit faster. I have these in all kinds of sizes all around my sewing room. And then we're just going to stitch across. I'm going to repeat this again. There's one side. These are so small I didn't even really need to place pins in there, but I tell you, if your stuff wiggles around on you, then let's put a pin in that, and I'll show you on my second one what I'm talking about. So I have 2 glass head pins here, so they work just fine for this. So this time, that was my really quick and easy way because my fabric cooperated with me nicely. I promise you it did. Let's do this. We put a little pin in there, okay? See, that makes it behave nicely. And I'm gonna lay this one nice and flat open. Here we go. Do y'all do that to get your fabric to lay? Okay. And I still think if I will press that, and it's okay to do it with the iron over that glass head, it won't melt. If you press that, it does help it to behave just a little bit easier for you. So again, take your mitered corner here. These boxed off corners can actually be any size you want. You can make them a little bit deeper or shallower. It's up to you since you are the creator. Okay, but let's just stitch right on that. And again, don't forget to back tack. Once that's done, make sure you pull these pins out, and I believe that I will take my scissors or your rotary cutter and just chop these corners off. Leave about 1/4 of an inch on the other side of your seam. You can see my stitch there. I stitched in black. And then you're going to have to decide which one of these you want to be the lining and which one you want to be the outside. I think I want this to be the outside of my bag. And I'm going to put this one in the inside, so I can just leave it alone and then just tuck that right inside here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my, not press, but match up, my seams here, okay? And I want them opposing. So I'm going to press one to one side and one to the other, and they'll just nestle there for you. And then once you get those in place, some pins will help you. We can place some pins around here. I'm matching these up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch all the way around this, okay? About 3/4 of an inch down from the edge. Okay, that matched up very nicely. And then one thing I also need to remember to do is, now is the time to go ahead and tuck inside here our connector strip. Just like so. Could not be simpler. Let's just pin that in place. And I believe I'm going to take my free arm off, and it'll just be easier for me to travel around this if I do that. So I'm going to start on the back here. And I'm not sure that I have this tucked in enough to grab, so let me look at that real quick again. I don't think I left myself enough room. There we are. Now, go ahead and place that on your free arm. And what I'm going to do is on my baby lock, I'm going to use the edge of my J-foot as a guide, and I'm going to make sure that it hangs off the edge about 1/8 of an inch. My fabric's on the right side of the foot, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to put it in the far left position. And then when I do that, I can get myself a pretty good 3/4 of an inch down in there. And go all the way around. This is to make the pocket for your boning. I don't like for you to sew over pins, but these little glass head pins are so fine you can't even hear it. I did it by accident. Now I'm already almost to the end of my project here, so I'm approaching the end. So I just want to let that lay comfortably so it doesn't sew in there in an undesirable way. All the way around and meet your seam that you began with, okay? Stitch back over that just a little bit so you don't have to back tack. You can just stitch back over that a bit. And so you can see really quickly this has all come right into play here. So we're almost done here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run another top stitch just above here, and I want to leave an opening so that I can insert boning or whatever you desire to use to give your bag a little bit of body there. So this time I'm going to just top stitch just about 1/8 of an inch down from the edge. I'm thinking that that's not very straight, but you be sure to pay attention to make sure everything's straight. And so now what we're going to do is I've just left a little opening there, and I can insert, I think that one's a little bit too long. I can insert my boning or whatever you want to use. And now remember, this is nothing in the world but went out to the garage and I got the line for the weed eater, and this stuff works great in here. And it's easy to insert it in. So you want to insert that all the way in, and then what you're going to do to finish this project up is you're going to come back and top stitch right here to stitch that close. Now once that's closed, that's what gives you this body. See, I've just got a piece right inside there, 18 inches long, goes right on the inside. And then the last thing you'll do is take a little funnel, and you're going to want to put in your crushed walnut or your sand to give it the weight that you like. And all you're going to do then is just stitch that side closed. I did it on my machine. Before I filled mine, I stitched on this edge to top stitch it because I knew I was going to top stitch that closed instead of hand sewing it. Now if you're a hand sewer, then you can just hand sew it. But I found that just with a stitch on each side was fine. But this one's nice and weighty, so it stays right in place, and it's got the weed eater line in there. So I hope you enjoyed today's project, and thank you for supporting our business all these years. We have truly enjoyed growing up in this business, and we get to do what we love every day and live out our dreams. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and enjoy.